day, next Sunday. Oh, I'm not hearing you.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to our revered speaker for today, Her Grace Malati Devi. And all glories to the assembled Vaishnava devotees. We thank you all for being here. Today is Monday, first day of the busy week. And today happens to be a very special day because it's the 5th day of the 5th month of the 25th year of 21st century. and
This month, okay. And we're only a week, we're just like next Sunday, the appearance
yeah,
of
like
Lord
6 days away.
the
Yeah,
3
6 days
days.
away from Lord Nishimhadev's appearance. So we're very much privileged to have your association, Mother. And sometime, I think in 2 weeks' time, we're going to have Mother Jayashri also.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes. So
Oh,
thank you so much. Um, so without further ado, we may put the verse on the screen, and Mother, you take it over from here. There are 3 verses you're covering today.
yeah. There,
Yeah.
one doesn't have a purport and the other is short, so
Yes.
you're going to put them up?
Yes, Mother.
I'm looking. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskatya Desatarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:8, 23, 24, and 25. This first verse has no purport, I believe. So, Mrina Goreata Sheshaboga Paryankaikam Purusam Swayam Panatta Patrayuta Murdaratna Dior Birata Davanta Yuganta Toe. So we can go to the next verse. Oh, translation, sorry. Brahma could see that on the water there was a gigantic lotus-like white bedstead, the body of Seshanag, on which the personality of Godhead was lying alone. The whole atmosphere was illuminated by the rays of the jewels bedecking the hood of Seshanag, and that illumination dissipated all the darkness of these regions. Next. Praksham Shipantam Harito Paladeha Sanya Brihan Verurukama Murdanha Ratno Dadaharuasadi Somanasya Manasrajo Venubuzan Pankari. This is a really exciting, this translation is like amazing. The luster of the transcendental body of the Lord mocked the beauty. Everybody knows what mocked means, right? Mocked means you're being,
Laughing at.
huh?
Like laughing at.
Yeah, like you're not, you're joking at it. You
Joking,
mock. You're
yeah.
not like, what's with you, dude? So the Lord, the transcendental body of the Lord mocked the beauty of the coral mountain. The coral mountain is very beautifully dressed by the evening sky, but the yellow dress of the Lord mocked its beauty. There is gold on the summit of the mountain, but the Lord's helmet, bedecked with jewels, mocked it. The mountain's waterfalls, herbs, etc., with a panorama of flowers, seem like garlands. But the Lord's gigantic body and his hands and legs, decorated with jewels, pearls, tulsi leaves, and flower garlands, mocked the scene on the mountain. Purport by its divine grace. The panoramic beauty of nature, which strikes one with wonder, may be taken as a perverted reflection of the transcendental body of the Lord. One who is therefore attracted by the beauty of the Lord is no longer attracted by the beauty of material nature, although he does not minimize its beauty. In the Bhagavad Gita 259, it is described that one who is attracted by Param, the Supreme, is no longer attracted to anything inferior. Next. Ayam mato vistarata swamana dehana lokatraya sangrahana vichitra divya baranam sukhanam krita shiva srita vesha deham. Translation. His transcendental body, unlimited in length and breadth, occupied the three planetary systems, upper, middle, and lower. His body was self-illuminated by unparalleled dress and variegatedness and was properly ornamented. Purport, just 1 minute. The length and breadth of the transcendental body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead could only be measured by his own measurement, because he is all-pervading throughout the complete cosmic manifestation. The beauty of material nature is due to his personal beauty, yet he is always magnificently dressed and ornamented to prove his transcendental variegatedness, which is so important in the advancement of spiritual knowledge. So there are wonderful, in this entire chapter, coming to this point, many wonderful, you can say, lessons, wonderful insights, wonderful instructions and teachings are there. It was mentioned in the in the first purport, the second verse, we mentioned Bhagavad Gita 259. And of course, that's such a beautiful, well-known verse. Some look upon the soul as amazing. Some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. So since the Gita Upanishad is largely based on the principles of the Upanishads, it's not surprising to also find that this passage is also in the Katha Upanishad. And the fact that the atomic soul, when we say atomic just means like infinitesimally tiny, tiny, tiny. The atomic souls within the body of a gigantic animal, in the body of a gigantic banyan tree, and also in the microbic germs, millions and billions of which occupy only an inch of space. It's certainly amazing. Men with a, Prabhupada uses this term a lot, men with a poor fund of knowledge. It means They have some knowledge, but it's irrelevant knowledge, means no value, useless, poor fund of knowledge. And men who are not austere, it means sense enjoyers, cannot understand the wonders of the individual atomic spark of spirit, even though it is explained by the greatest authority of knowledge, who imparted lessons even to Lord Brahma, the first living being in the universe. So we have in mind that, amazing picture of Lord Brahma. We'll mention it again shortly. But, coming up from the navel of the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu atop a lotus flower, what an incredible birth. And it's not like a hallucination, it's not like a sci-fi movie. It's the ultimate in spiritual reality. Such a birth, such a being, the creator of all living entities at the order of the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Creator. And still, people with insufficient knowledge means not spiritually educated, just can't understand any of this. So Nanta Sage, he is a devotee incarnation of Godhead. He knows nothing but service to the Lord, just like the Lord is lying on him. He's Nanta Sage means serpent, in this case, this hooded cobra. And he's lying in his body as a bedstead for the Supreme Lord. Servitor. Jiva Goswami, in his Krishna Sandarbha, is describing Seshanag as follows, that Sri Ananta Dev has thousands of faces and he's fully independent. And he's always ready to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He waits upon him constantly. And Shankarshan is the first expansion of Vasudeva. And because he appears by his own will, he is called Swarat. Swarat means fully independent. And he is therefore this infinite and transcendental to all limits of time and space. And he himself appears as the thousand-headed Sesha, Ananta Sesh, the supreme servitor of the Supreme Lord. In the Skanda Purana, the demigod Indra requested Lord Sesha. So Lord Sesha was standing before him as Lakshmana, brother of Lord Ramachandra. And he said to Lord Sesh, please go to your eternal abode, Vishnu Loka, where your expansion Sesha with his serpentine hoods is also present. So after dispatching Lakshmana to the regions of Patala, Lord Indra returned to his abode. So it's explained that this quotation indicates the Shankarshan of the quadruple form descends with Lord Rama as Lakshmana. And when Lord Rama disappears, when his pastimes are finished, Sesha separates himself, and actually it says Sesha again separates himself, means he's constantly in the servitorship. And as a servitor, sometimes he takes on different personalities. So in this case, he was in the personality of Lakshman, and he separated himself from that personality. And Sesha returns to his own abode in the Patala region. And then Lakshman returns to his abode in Vaikuntha. I was thinking about that, here's one person, and yet within that one is two and unlimited. And when the transcendental drama is over, they take off, they separate their characters, and each goes to their actual abode. In this case, Lakshman he's in Vaikuntha, and Sesha is in the Patala regions. So in the Lagu Bhakatavamrita by Srila Rupa Goswami is describing the Shankarshan of the second group of the quadruple form appears as Rama. And he takes Sesha with him, and Sesha bears the global spears. So there are two features of Shesh. One is the bearer of the globes, and the other is the bedstead servitor. And Sesha, who bears the globes, is a potent incarnation of Shankarshan, and therefore he is also called Shankarshan. And the bedstead feature of Shesha always presents himself as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the Kuru dynasty was full of devotees of the personality of Godhead, and therefore it was glorious because they were not attached to the impersonal Brahman. They weren't attached to the localized Paramatma. They were directly attached to Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, and therefore they were worthy to render service to the Lord and his pure devotees. And we know that the Lord's devotees are so dear to the Lord that he is most pleased when he sees his devotees are being served. That could be a whole other class. There's so many instances where the Lord is more pleased to see his devotees being recognized. And he sets up situations where his devotees will be recognized. Think of the situation in the Bhagavad Gita where there's our dear friend Arjuna, completely dejected, and then the Lord induces him to fight, and he becomes glorious. He becomes the great hero, and Krishna is taking the back seat to that, enjoying the glorification of his pure devotee. So Vidura was one of the descendants of that family, of that dynasty, the Puru dynasty. So he was naturally engaged in spreading wide the ever fresh glories of the Lord. Sorry. Maitreya Muni, out of compassion for the suffering men of the world, he proposed, first and last, we will speak on Bhagavatam. And the Srimad Bhagavatam was especially compiled and traditionally comes down in the disciplic succession for the solution of all the problems of human society. Now, we may think, how is that even possible? I mean, given that the Bhagavatam was recited in such a time and space, in the past that we can't even calculate it on our calendar. I mean, we do have a day, Gita Jayanti, but we don't have a Bhagavatam Jayanti. It's just so much in the history that you cannot calculate, put it that way. So how can there, since it was so far in the past, how could there be solutions in that book for all the problems of human society? Just look what's going on today. Look what went on 50 years ago, 100 years ago. And then if you think about how things were going, let's say 100, 150 years ago, so you can pick up a book, you might see some photographs, drawings, and read something about the way life was. And, very quaint, very interesting. Aren't we glad we don't have to live like that now? Only who knows where our life is going to take us now, and all the problems that are coming along with life on each and every stage, from the beginning that we cannot even calculate to the moment of today. What do we know will happen tomorrow and in the future? We don't know. And yet the Bhagavatam has the answers for all those problems. So only one who is fortunate can have the opportunity to hear Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, in the association of pure devotees of the Lord. Now, under the spell of the material energy, the living entities become entangled by so many difficulties simply for the sake of a little bit of material happiness, or even just a little relief from the pressure of material life. Engaging in fruitive activities, not understanding the implications under the false impression the body is the self, the living entities foolishly relate to so many false attachments. And even when we're given transcendental knowledge, somehow or other, we may still become enamored by the dark cloud of Maya with her false smile. So the Ganges water, it's flowing directly from the lotus feet of Vishnu. And amazingly, its course runs from the highest planet of the universe to the lowest. That means it's coming through the earth, but it's not situated in the earth. It's passing through. And the stages came down from Satyaloka, the highest planet in the spirit and material world. They came from Satyaloka by taking advantage of the flowing water, a process of transportation made possible by the power of mystic yoga. So these sages were coming, they wanted to hear from, they wanted to, ask questions and hear. And then they came in various ways. So what was described, they take here is the Ganges. So these sages will take a dip in the Ganges, mean they enter into the Ganges. And they're able to traverse all over the universe via the sacred river, because the Ganges is not limited to the planet Earth. So in one of the purports, or one of the verses, it was noted that their hair was wet. And it indicated, so this was the sages that were coming to hear, and this indicated that their hair was moistened by the water originating from the lotus feet of Vishnu, meaning the Ganges. And whoever touches the water of the Ganges to his head, like we may make some folded palms, bow our head, take our hand and, take a little scoop of water, put it on our head. Whoever does this, his head surely touches the lotus feet of the Lord directly. It said, whoever touches the water of the Ganges to his head surely touches the lotus feet of the Lord and becomes free from all effects of sinful acts. Of course, there's a caveat here. You get your instant of freedom from sinful acts, but then, provided one does not again resume the sinful activities. So you can get that purification in an instant, and in an instant you can lose it by, sinful activities, which are not always something enormously gross. It can be a subtle sinful activity, but it erodes away at the piety that had been gained. Another thing is, one time, just of an experience, I've probably mentioned it before, but in 73 at the the Kumbh Mela in Allahabad, we were there for the first time with His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. So it was the first time any of us had seen such an incredible spectacle. On our way, we were taking these rough trains with just wooden seats, nothing comfortable to say the least. And we just knew we were going to this town, and from that town we would get to Allahabad, and we knew Allahabad was the sacred convergence of the Ganga, the Yamuna, the Saraswati. We knew the Saraswati, you couldn't see her, but she was there. So that's about, and all these people would be coming, like different types of yogis and different types of devotees. And we had never had any type of that exposure. And these people, as bizarre as some of them were, I mean, there were people there were the Naga Babas, and they did not bother wearing clothing. They just wore big, huge dreadlocks knotted up on their head. Sometimes their hair was like almost as tall as they were. And, they sit there smoking on their little chillums and rolling their eyes, and so many different sights. But for us, that was an unusual sight. But for these people, some of them were on elephants, some were on camels, for them, seeing the Western devotees of Srila Prabhupada was an amazing sight. They had never even imagine such a thing could occur. And every single day we were going through the camp, doing Sri Harinam Sankirtan. So then they started coming. People wanted to, check out these people and who's their leader, who is their guru. And then they would come and they would meet Srila Prabhupada. So one day this person came and he looked pretty aged, but quite at our age, being as young as we were, everybody kind of looked pretty aged. But this person, he definitely looked very aged. And when he left, very respectfully had his darshan, they exchanged some words, Srila Prabhupada and this yogi. Prabhupada casually mentioned he is over 500 years old and he came here through the river, through the Ganges. He said, these yogis, they know how to do that. So that was, it was an eye-opener. But then we looked at Srila Prabhupada and what a glorious master. He didn't have to take any such endeavor to go through the river. He took the austerity of going in trains and planes and automobiles in order to bring the holy name and spread the holy name far and wide. So he was certainly a Mahayogi, Srila Prabhupada, and people could see that. So questions similar that had been put forward by Vidura were being asked by the great sages like Sanat Kumar and Lord Sankarshan. Lord Sankarshan, again, the plenary expansion of Lord Vasudeva, was answering the questions. And at the time, Sankarshan, he was meditating on the Supreme Lord Vasudeva. But for the sake of the advancement of the learned sages, when they appeared, he slightly opened his lotus-like eyes and he began to speak. So this is also something interesting to think that, here were these great learned sages, but they were coming to receive more advancement. For the sake of advancement, Vasudeva slightly opened his lotus eyes and began to speak. So sometimes the Lord is sometimes addressed as Uttama Sloka. That means one who is worshipped with select words, or sometimes they say choice words by devotees. And a profusion of such choice words comes from a devotee who is fully absorbed in affection and love for the devotional service of the Lord. And Prabhupada made an important point that without the development of fine affection and love, one cannot offer suitable prayers to the Lord. In devotional service, therefore, 2 items out of the 9, so we all know the 9 processes, 2 items out of the 9, namely hearing and chanting, are the most important. So, and even out of that, they're like parallel, hear, chant, but the hearing is the most important ultimately. Chandramauli Swami, he spoke of the importance of the hearing from the Padma Purana, and he was explaining that the 4 principles of effective hearing. So, we can sit in class, we hear some sound vibration, and after the class, you're scrambling, what was that about? What did they say? And you want to be nice to the speaker. Oh, that was a great class, wonderful class, Prabhu. But you can't remember actually what was said. So that's not hearing, actually. Effective hearing means that you are hearing through absorption. So it means you're not going to forget. You absorb it. That's hearing. So the first part of effective hearing is faith. Faith in the words of the speaker. And if Chandramauli Swami was explaining, if you have doubts that you're not going to be able to assimilate what is being said, if you have doubts, you can't assimilate. You're putting a little barrier is there. So it's not, it may come in the ear, but it'll go out the ear. It's blocked by the doubt. So the second one is humility. And in other words, one has to have a demeanor which is accepting what's being said. So the 2 things, faith and humility. And then the third thing is destroying the faults of the mind. So that means in this process of the hearing, some thoughts may come above what's being spoken. So you're trying to hear and some thought enters. And that can happen during the process even of devotional hearing. And this devotional hearing is so powerful. The process of hearing the words being spoken about the Supreme Lord are so powerful that they can travel through the whole universe and then come back to wherever you happen to be sitting in Africa, in Gitanagari, New Vrindavan, New York, London, wherever, in a few seconds. Prabhupada explained, and specifically the Mahamantra, it can encircle the entire universe. I forget something like 16 seconds, 1 second for each syllable. But that is the same thing with the nature of the uncontrolled mind. It's so powerful. It's fast and it's disobedient. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says, your mind is a non-devotee. So we understand you shouldn't associate with non-devotees. Therefore, what to do? We have to preach to the mind. We have to make it a devotee. So this destroying the faults of the mind means constantly bringing the mind back to the lotus feet of the Lord, or to the topic that's being narrated, to fix the consciousness on the subject matter. Just like in class, you're sitting there, you think you're listening, then all of a sudden you're hearing like, oh my, what is he saying? What did I? Either you space out, as we say, sometimes you nod off for like a nanosecond, and in that nanosecond, the speaker says something so amazing that everybody else hears and you've missed it. So it doesn't matter. As soon as you realize you've kind of breached the attentiveness, pull that mind back, just get it back, So these are like some of the proponents. So if you follow the first three, the faith, humility, and then bringing the mind back to the sound vibration, then Maharaj explains that one or two things may happen, or both may happen. So one gets realization, you've been hearing effectively. One gets realization of the subject matter, and two, one may start to think of questions in relationship to the subject matter. So it's very important, that point. When you say think of questions, sometimes, the speaker says, are there any questions? And there's profound silence, like everybody starts to wake up. But if you're listening attentively, you want to know more and more when it's a transcendental topic, of course. And then you'll have questions. And when these questions are there, one gets the questions are there, you get realization of the subject matter, and you start to think of more questions. You want to know more. I want to know more in relationship to the subject and to the topic. Sometimes Prabhupada would have to admonish somebody. It's only in questions, and the person would ask a question that was like, "Where was that?" This wasn't the topic. Ask the question on the topic, but the truth was the person hadn't really been listening. But he throws the question out. So sometimes Prabhupada would just say, "That's not on the topic," and sometimes he would say, "This is not on the topic, but," and he would answer it. But these are the principles or proponents of attentive hearing. And then we have to practice. So we can practice that hearing with our japa, especially in the process of hearing, because the more we concentrate on what's being said, the more we enter deeper into the mood of what is being said, with the result the mind becomes fixed. So like in my own personal case, I asked Srila Prabhupada, what should we think about when we're chanting? He goes, think. No think, hear. He told us, hear, simply hear. And then he told the god sister, hear every word, every syllable. So it gives some indication of how profound it is to properly hear. In the Madhya Lila, you see this very well-known verse Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Kaya, Lavamatra Sadhu Sange Sarva Siddhi Hoy. So through the mood of hearing great souls, as described in this verse by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he uses this word, lava matra. And Srila Prabhupada describes lava matra as 1/11th of a second. So if you take a second, I mean, what is a second? Sometimes actually a second can really seem like a long time if you're not eagerly engaged in the hearing. And if you're eagerly engaged in attentive hearing, it can't, you just want more and more. So if you take a second and you divide it into many parts, one of those parts would be considered a lava matra. So the emphasis is that by associating with great souls, even for 1/11th of a second, is that one can become completely purified of all material attachments and material desires. And this Prabhupada describes as achieving success. So the process of Krishna consciousness is about realization, whether it comes by way of service or continual hearing. And then when you get realization, that's your lava matra, that 1/11th of a second of absolute total clarity. And that's what we want. We don't want to be just a theoretical devotee. We just keep hearing, I know the philosophy, but I don't really realize it. Realization means it becomes part of you. And that realization comes by service and constant hearing with faith. So just as hearing with faith and constant hearing, if you constantly hear non-spiritual topics with eagerness, you're not going to have the realization that you need for spiritual life. So it's very important that we consider carefully what we allow to go into our ears. Just like when you go shopping, maybe you have to buy something, you pick it up and you're looking at that label. What are the ingredients? Oops, onion, garlic, back on the shelf, or whatever. But you're careful what you accept, what you're going to put into your mouth, hopefully. Similarly with our ears. The other day there was like a dramatic, it was like a drama, it was a community festival we had all in New Vrindavan, and there was devotees from the Krishna House in Florida, and we were in our community center. It was a very wonderful evening, and it was Krishna conscious point. I don't know if you hear these peacocks screaming. They had a contest, and they invited people to come up and imitate peacocks, and then we voted by way of clapping who was the best peacock imitator. But otherwise, so many nice, Krishna conscious ways of remembering Krishna and showing appreciation to Krishna's devotees. And there were a few things that were kind of like amusing, but didn't necessarily go too far about helping you remember Krishna. One in particular, I have to say. So I was thinking when I left, this is the last thing of the day. I'm going to go to bed. I don't want that getting into my mind at night. I don't want to be remembering this and having to wake up thinking about whatever. So, I took a remedy, and my remedy was reading about Krishna and chanting a few rounds. So we have to, protect our consciousness, and we have to ensure that our consciousness will be strong enough to be able to have that realization and that we're ready for the realization. That's what we want, And the impetus for activities for fruit of results occurs by the dictation of the external energy of the Lord Kala. But the realization from that comes from devotional service and constant hearing with faith about the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead those will propel us further and deeper into devotional service and constant attachment to the Supreme Lord. So there was also this lovely description of the lotus flower and coming from the navel of the gigantic form of the Lord. And it was said how it became amalgamated in the abdomen of the personality of God, Vishnu. So at the time of dissolution, it became manifested so there's a dissolution, then it becomes manifest at the time of creation. And it's explained this is due to Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, who enters into each of the universes. And then this is a form of the sum total of all the fruitive activities of the living entities that are conditioned by material nature. And the first one of these living entities is Lord Brahma, the controller of the universe. And he was generated from this lotus flower, coming, as you know, from the navel of the Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. And unlike others, this first living entity had no material father. Thus he's called Swayambhu, means self-born. And he goes to sleep with Narayan at the time of devastation. And then when there's another creation, he's born again in this way. And from this description, we have a concept of the gross Virat, the subtle Hiranyagarbha, and the material creative force, Lord Brahma. So Brahma, the original creature, born out of the energy of the Supreme Lord, is known also as Hiranyagarbha. So this Hiranyagarbha means creator. So the post of Lord Brahma is a post, just like we have temple commander, we have temple president. So Lord Brahma has this post, and it's meant for very highly elevated, spiritually advanced living beings. And if and when there's, which it does happen, that such a highly advanced personality is not available, then Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, expands himself as Lord Brahma. So this takes place very rarely, but it ensures that there's always somebody in charge. And this is explained in the 10th canto and the 13th chapter in the 62nd verse, if you want to check that out. But also in the 5th canto, 2044, it explains, consequently, there are two kinds of Brahmas. Sometimes Brahma is an ordinary living entity. At other times, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So whether Brahma is the Supreme Personality of Godhead or an ordinary living entity, he is known as Vairaja Brahma or Hiranyagarbha Brahma. So when he was born out of this lotus flower, he couldn't see the world. Although he was situated in the whirl of that lotus. So then what happened, he stepped out, he had a spacewalk, he was you could say he was circumambulating all of the space. And he was moving his eyes all around. And as he moved his eyes all around, it means in all the directions, he achieved 4 heads in terms of the 4 directions. So this means initially he did not have 4 heads. But he was perplexed about his creation, the lotus and the world. And even though he tried to understand them for 1 millennium, which is difficult to calculate the solar years, but he was intensely trying to understand this. So these speculations of Brahma in the beginning regarding the creation of the cosmic manifestation is still a subject matter for mental speculators. But most intelligent persons try to find the cause of one's own existence. And that is the entire cosmic manifestation, trying to find the ultimate cause. So this is, if one attempts to properly, if the attempt at trying to understand who am I, where am I, what is all the, if you properly execute with penance and perseverance, Prabhupada said, it is sure to be crowned with success. So every effort requires perseverance and austerity. And success means that one becomes fully attached and cognizant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that if your personal endeavor may bring you nearer to the Lord, but it's noted that without the Lord's mercy, one cannot reach the ultimate point. So understanding of the Lord is possible only by devotional service, as is confirmed at famous verse, Bhagavad Gita 1855, Bhaktyam mam abhijanati vyabhavam yaschasmai tattvatvaha. And so it's confirmed, Bhagavad Gita, one must approach a spiritual master, inquire for them submissively, render service. And in the Bhagavatam 11.321 states, one's first duty is to accept a bona fide spiritual master. So we often hear, take shelter of the lotus feet of the spiritual master. And what does that mean, take shelter of the lotus feet? It means follow their instructions, follow the instructions of the guru. Don't keep looking out for a back door, an escape hatch. One has to wait for the mercy of the Lord before one can actually render service unto him or even know him as he is. So that means we're a work in progress. We have to prepare ourselves for this mercy that will come from the Supreme Lord. And at that time, we can actually render pure devotional service, and we will know him as he is. So the beautiful Govindam prayers that were recited by Lord Brahma, the hymns of Lord Brahma, and were translated by His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And a few of those is like there's a 5th chapter of the Brahma Samhita was discovered by Lord Chaitanya during his South India tour at the Adikeshava temple. And so far, that is the only chapter that's been revealed. There were supposed to be 100 chapters, and somewhere at some time, the rest may be revealed. But by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we have been gifted with an introduction to this beautiful prayers of Lord Brahma. Now, the first text, if you, oh, wait a second, maybe. Let me see here. 1 second, maybe I can do this. Chat. Okay. Okay. Oh, I wanted to put it in the chat, but they have a limit to the amount of words. I was thinking we could participate. Hold on, let's see. Well, do this here.
You may share also. You may share on the screen, Mother.
Okay, but now time is going fast.
Okay.
I'll just shorten it a little bit. Oh, I
Okay.
can't even do that. Oh, yeah, okay, I can. No, I can't. Oh, well. It was, I had this idea that we could, anyway, you can look it up on a device, I guess. It's like, there's the intro, and there's Ishwara Parama Krishna. Probably everybody knows this. You can say it if you know it. Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the Supreme Godhead. He has an eternal blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes. So that is like the intro. And then we were given a few verses, and on the occasion of every Didi Darshan, every morning in ISKCON all over the world, you will hear these beautiful verses. Shintamani Prakara Sadmanasu Kalpa Vriksha Laksa Shriteshu Surabirabi Palyantam Lakshmi Saha Sarasata Sambrama Sevyamanam. Everybody, Govindam Maripurusham Tamaham Vazami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor who is tending the cows, yielding all desire, in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, the kalpavriksha, always served with great reverence by hundreds, with great reverence, and affection by hundreds and thousands of Lakshmis or gopis. So now we're getting a glimpse into Krishna's world. This is where we're trying to situate ourselves. This is where we hope our destination will be. Venam Kanvantam Aravinda Dalayataksham Bharhavatam Sammasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarbakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Madipusam Tamahang Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing his flute with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with head bedecked with peacock feather, with the figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids. Alola Chandrakala Sadhanamalya Vamsi Ratnangadam Pranaya Keli Kalavilasam Shamantri Bangalalitan Yata Prakasham. Everybody Govindam Hadipusam Tamahang Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, round whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers beautified with the moon locket, whose two hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always reveals in the pastime of love, whose graceful threefold bending form of Shamasundar is eternally manifest. Agani Agnaniyasa Sakalayan Vitimante Pashanti Panti Kayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chimaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Maripusam Tamahang Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is thus full of the most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of that transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged function of all the organs and internally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane. So this concept, how each of the limbs of that transcendental figure are able to perform the functions of all other limbs. We had a little glimpse of that in 1967 when Lord Jagannath first appeared to us in San Francisco. And Srila Prabhupada told us now everything that you prepare and cook must be offered to him. He'd had me get a silver-coated plate and goblet, bowl, 2 bowls, a spoon. Everything had to be put on that plate, which he said, get a plate that no one else had eaten from, because as hippies, we were used to recycling. I mean, finding some old used thing and using it. So now we're learning a different type of approach to life, and a plate that nobody else had touched or eaten on. So must be offered to him. So one of the devotees said, well, how does he eat? And Prabhupada looked at him and goes, that you cannot understand. But he eats with his elbow. He eats with his knee. He can simply glance and taste everything. That you cannot understand. So here we were getting in that beautiful verse. So Advaitam Achutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Madhyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Videshu Dulavam Madulabam Atma Bhakto Govindam Maripurusham Tamahang Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure, unalloyed devotion to the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha. Yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth. So these beautiful prayers are a window through which we can actually see, hear, and actually get an idea of the beauty of the spiritual world. Oh, so come in. somebody came. Anyway, just have a couple minutes. There's something that I wanted to, like, this is coming from Srila Prabhupada, and it's such an amazing thing. A very dear friend just showed up. Just give me 2 minutes here. Yeah. So Prabhupada was in this, it was in Bhagavad Gita 259, I think. He's giving this incredible, no, not 259, it's another one, but he's giving this really incredible description about the different yugas. And then, you know, in the Dwapara Yuga, there's an even greater decline in virtue and religion. Vice is increasing in this yuga last 864 thousands of years, and then finally Kali Yuga. And, you know, we've been experiencing over the past 500 years an abundance of strife, ignorance, irreligion, and vice, true virtue being practically non-existent. And this yuga lasts 432,000. And then Prabhupada said, and then the process is set rolling again. And he says, these 100 years by earthly calculations total 311 trillion and 4 million Earth years. This is like the Brahma's day and night. And by these calculations, the life of Brahma seems fantastic and interminable. This is Prabhupada's words. But from the viewpoint of eternity, it is as brief as a flash of lightning. And in the causal ocean, there are innumerable Brahmas rising and disappearing like bubbles in the Atlantic. Brahma and his creation are all part of the material universe, and therefore they're in constant flux. And the sages of Namasharana, they begin this process. It means they were getting ready to hear, and they prepared themselves, and they were going to sit and hear for 1,000 years. We can barely make it through a 60-minute class. Anyway, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mother, for this beautiful sharing of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, reflections you may want to ask or share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to ask or share your questions or reflections.
Or you can save the questions and you say Jayshrie's coming in 2 weeks. Ask them to her. That wasn't.
Well, Mother, we have some questions for you today. One, like I said, thank you so much for this Krishna Katha. You had indicated that Srila Prabhupada has said that out of the 9 processes of devotional service,
Yeah.
hearing and chanting are the most important.
Yeah, that's a direct quote. Yes.
Yes. I have also heard that whatever we're doing is just to help us to, one, always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna.
Yes.
So hearing and chanting being the most important, are they the most important because these two help us remember Krishna always and never forget Krishna? Or what makes these two the most important?
That will always remember Krishna and never forget him. And by remembering him, because Krishna is no different from his name, we will be connected to Krishna in such a way that our affection will expand, our love for Krishna will grow and develop, and we will actually go from practicing devotional service to fully performing real devotional service with great love and affection. And that means we'll actually understand that there is Krishna. It's not something we're telling ourselves in our mind, it becomes a reality.
Okay. I was also wondering, well, thank you, I should say. I was also wondering the text itself, the first text we began with, which is text 23 of chapter 8. If I may put it up here, 3:8:23. And the translation states that
Yeah, that's
Brahma could see that on the water there was a gigantic lotus-like white bedstead, the body of Sishanaga, on which the personality of Godhead was lying alone. And I was thinking, almost every time we see Lord Vishnu, he is always with Mother Lakshmi, massaging his
yeah, but
lotus feet.
this is that yes, but
Okay.
here was the beginning of a creation.
Okay.
So there's a specific instance that's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it lasted very long. You know, we went through, like, explained how he was looking around with his eyes, and by doing that, he's going in the four directions. So he was only had one head initially, and suddenly he's got four heads by moving his eyes around all the
In all
directions.
directions.
So things started filling up. So I
Okay.
don't know the exact time when Lakshmi arrived. That's something that can be investigated by our scholars.
Scholars. Okay.
But, you know, at that moment, he was, I mean, Brahma even wasn't there at first. It was just Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And his eyes are closed. He's, you know, so
Yeah.
I have to take my leave.
Well, as always, thank you so much, Mother. And of course, we also somebody came to visit, so you need to attend to her. Dear devotees, we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
I want to show, this is
Oh, Hare Krishna.
Jamuna Devi Dasi, Satru Maharaj's Jamuna. We used to call her Little Jamuna because there was cookbook, you know, Big Jamuna, and this was Little Jamuna.
Little Jamuna. Okay. So, little Jamuna, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for visiting. Hare Krishna. All right. So, devotees, you may all unmute and we all chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra to express our appreciation to Mother. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Hare,
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Hare,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare.
Vancha
Vancha
Kalapatarabhyascha, Kripasinduvyam,
Adita
Anapavanam.
Our grace, Mother Malati Devi Dasi ki. Yeah.
Jai.
Come from the church, the Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Yeah.